A 1 in 100 million chance in a speedrun? You have a better chance of winning the lottery. With odds so low, you'd think no one can ever finish a run, but speedrunners have found a way to do it. Hang on to your chocobos because today we'll be taking a close look at just how speedrunners beat these impossibly low odds, as well as the other various ways they completely tear this game apart, such as skipping encounters, balancing experience, and turning one of the worst skills in the game into a force to be reckoned with. This is part 1 of the speedrun of Final Fantasy IV's PC ports. The game starts with Cecil, leader of the Baron Red Wings, returning from a mission to steal a crystal from the Mysidians. Because Cecil is starting to have second thoughts due to having something called morals, whatever those are, the King of Baron fires him and sends him and his boy toy Kane off to deliver a package to the town of Mist. The path to Mist is perilous, so as a safety measure, speedrunners travel around the world on the slowest battle speed. Killing random encounters is a waste of time, so we keep battle speed as slowest outside of boss fights to escape faster. How quickly you escape is sort of the same regardless of your battle speed. If it takes 10 seconds to escape on slowest battle speed, it will still take you about 10 seconds to escape at the fastest battle speed. The main difference is that on the fastest battle speed, enemies are more likely to get a few turns in before you escape. And you also can't escape in the middle of an attack animation, so this saves time and lets us get by without healing as often. From Baron, our intrepid heroes take a quick detour to a nearby forest to capture a chocobo to reach a cave without any extra encounters. Inside the cave, we see Naming Way, who has now changed his name to Mapping Way the Cartographer. We'll be seeing this guy around on the run, so get used to his face. Later, we get warned by some mysterious voice to leave, but we ignore it and press forward. Because the party is low on funds, we also strip Kane of all his armor to sell for later, as well as set battle speed back to fastest and ATP to wait mode. Wait mode? But this is a speed run, shouldn't you be using the superior active mode instead? Well, it's not that simple. As counterintuitive as it may be, the ATP Final Fantasies are typically done on ATP wait mode. With the way the game works, ally actions stop the ATP from moving, so you can menu without losing any time at all as long as you finish before the animation is over. Plus, you're time gated by the animations of the last person, so wait mode loses practically no time. It also lets us do a little thing called ATP wait tricking, but that will be a topic for another time. At the exit of the cave, we encounter the first boss of the game, the Mist Dragon. Being the first boss of the game, there's not a whole lot going on. We basically play as aggressively as possible, with Kane spamming attack while Cecil uses darkness to buff up and attack after. Unlike in the 2D versions of this game, darkness in the 3D versions isn't an attack but a buff instead. It temporarily doubles the damage of the caster's melee attacks in exchange for 10% of their max HP each time. Before Mist Dragon's third turn, we'll stop attacking as it dissolves into mist, which is how the game introduces boss counters. Many bosses counter certain actions, and Mist Dragon in this case counters any attacks while in mist form, so we have to wait this out. Before the mist dissipates, Cecil will refresh darkness, and then on the last round we'll have Cecil solo the boss while Kane kills himself so that Cecil can take all the experience. It's very important that Cecil is the one who gets all the experience because he's our main damage dealer in the early game, and the extra levels will make a huge difference on one of the boss fights later on. Once we reach the town of Mist, the ring that the king had us deliver summons a bunch of bombs that destroy the town. Also, we find out that the dragon we killed belongs to this little girl's mom, which also by extension killed her. Whoops. Kane and Cecil try to do the right thing by taking the girl to safety, but she runs away and summons Titan to render the land asunder, separating them. Cecil brings the unconscious girl to the nearest inn all the way in the desert, and in the middle of the night, some soldiers from Baron arrive to kill her. So we engage in combat and end up by simply throwing a red fang. Fangs do damage equal to 50% of a character's current HP, though because we're playing on normal mode, this gets boosted up to 60%. But either way, this is enough to one-shot all of them. Man, for one of the strongest armies in the world, these soldiers sure were weak. After rescuing the girl from the evil Baron soldiers, she tells us that her name's Rydia, and she officially joins the party. In the morning, we go to the shop at the inn and sell off most of Kane's gear, as well as buy an emergency exit, a maiden's kiss, 2 Phoenix Downs, and 3 potions. We'll then enter some random house in town and find Rosa unconscious with desert fever, so we need to get a sand pearl from Damsian to cure her. We'll take the auto potion augment from her, which is a unique feature to the 3D version of FF4. These are very rare items that you can only get once per playthrough. You use them to teach a skill to a party member. The game does an atrocious job of explaining how to obtain these, on top of the fact that they expect you to use these rare items on useless characters who permanently leave the party in order to obtain better augments. There aren't a whole lot of useful augments for speedrunning, but we'll be spreading out our useless augments in a way to get the few good ones we need. Upon leaving, we'll head out to the underground waterway where we meet the famous sage Tella, who is trying to find his daughter Anna, who according to him has been charmed by some evil bard of the spoon variety, but he can't defeat the monster at the end alone, so he joins us as we head over to Damsian together. When going through areas with encounters, you'll see speedrunners quicksaving the game and reloading the quicksave pretty often. This is a trick called the quick save reload, or QSRL for short. The idea is that it typically takes 9+ seconds to escape an encounter, but it only takes 5 seconds to save and reload. While the exact way random encounters work isn't known for certain, I've done some extensive testing on the DS version of Final Fantasy III many years ago, and as of now, the community is working under the assumption that it works very similarly due to both games being made by Matrix Software. This is how encounters work in Final Fantasy III. The game checks the level of your party members, possibly your weakest party member just because FF3 loves to compare your weakest party member to the enemies, and then it compares that to the level of the dungeon. The stronger your party, the longer you can run before the game does an encounter check. You start with a threat value of 0, and each time you reach an encounter check, the threat meter goes up by 5. The game then gets a random number from 0 to 100. If the random number is less than or equal to your threat meter, then you get an encounter. So your chance of getting an encounter at each encounter check is 5%, then 10%, then 15%, and so on until you either get an encounter, leave the room, talk to your guest, or make a reload and autosave. After that, it resets back to 0. Final Fantasy IV also seems to have some sort of threat meter, so the longer you run, the more likely you are to get into an encounter until it becomes a guarantee, though the threat meter gets saved across rooms unlike in FF3. With this in mind, the current world record holder Ben Desh and I worked together to figure out when you should do a quick save for optimal time save, and we determined through 2 different methods, Desh through math and me through coding, that the optimal point is just past the average time you get an encounter in a dungeon. Not only that, but Desh actually took the time to figure out how many seconds you should run before doing a quick save reload in every single dungeon of the game to maximize time save. So with that in mind, if runners don't get an encounter after running for about 8.5 seconds in a waterway, they do a quick save reload to reset the threat meter to avoid encounters. In the next cave, runners will stop right here and quit out of the game in order to get this encounter with 4 red, mooses? Anyways, by having Rydia cast Blizzard, followed by Cecil tossing a Maiden's Kiss, and then having Tella cast Thunder, we now get a Rainbow Pudding, which is a 0.4% item drop. No way, this is just pure luck, right? This is actually done through something called RNG Manipulation. How does this all work? Computers aren't truly random. They follow some sort of algorithm to spit out seemingly random numbers, and in some cases, the numbers are humanly possible to manipulate. In this case, RNG is determined based on what time you open your game down to the seconds. This is a common trick used to make RNG seem more random, so runners abuse this by closing out of the game, changing their computer's time, and then opening up the game again. This is what gets us impossibly good luck throughout the run, though there are unfortunately some limitations which we'll see later on. In the past, we had to change our clocks manually every time and then change them back afterwards, just like adjusting for daylight savings back in ancient times. But thanks to Seraph, who is an FF runner and one of the organizers of the yearly Final Fantasy Relay, we now have a tool that temporarily forces our PC's clock to a certain time in order to make RNG manipulation much faster and easier than ever before. So now it's as good a time as ever to learn the speedrun if you're interested. Of course, a 0.4% chance isn't nearly as bad as a 1 in 100 million chance, so what else gets manipulated? At the beginning of the game, there was also a forced floating eye encounter that we RNG manipulate to get the 5% alarm clock drop for safety on a boss fight later on. Plus, we'll very carefully navigate to the next boss, Octomammoth, without messing with the RNG. Along the way, we'll pick up 2 chests for a Hermes saddle and Hades armor. Octomammoth is a huge jump up from Mist Dragon, boasting a much higher 3350 HP compared to Mist Dragon's measly 556. It's also weak to Thunder and Dark, so normally we'd be whittling down its health with Cecil spamming attacks and Tella spamming Thunder, which made this a very long and annoying fight in the past. But thanks to RNG manipulation, you can now just nuke the boss with Dundaga for a casual 800 plus damage compared to Cecil, who only hits for 200 damage. Tella of course only has a significantly weaker spell Thunder unlocked at this point in the game because of its dementia. But thanks to RNG manipulation, we can just have him spam Recall to get the 4% chance of getting Dundaga not once, not twice, but 3 times in one fight. Getting 3 Dundagas in a row, plus a Rainbow Pudding and an alarm clock is in total a 0.000000128% chance. Because Rydia is useless, we'll have her join her mom, and then have Cecil backstab Tella so that Cecil gets all of the delicious experience for himself to get up to level 17. That greedy bastard. No wonder he's a Dark Knight. With Octomammoth down, our party of Cecil and 2 corpses will now head to Damcyan, which was just attacked by Baron's army and had his crystal stolen. We'll use the time to raid their treasure room for an ether and a coveted elixir. You all know what to do with this, right? Hoard it for all eternity. My elixir, no one's allowed to use it. We'll finally go into the throne room of Damcyan and find Tella's daughter Anna die before his very eyes, and watch as Tella gets in a fight with that spoony bard before learning that he's actually Edward, Prince of Damcyan. Tella then leads the party while Edward joins us. Hooray, I'm sure everyone's so excited. In order to get our hands on a sand pearl, we must travel to the Antlion's cave with Edward's fancy hovercraft, where we'll now fight the Antlion. This fight is the reason why we needed to give Cecil all the experience up to this point, because not having it loses a lot of time. Antlion isn't nearly as bad as Octomammoth. The gimmick of this fight is her red eyes and white eyes form. With red eyes, Antlion counters any magic attack, and with white eyes, she counters any melee attacks. Cecil's going to be our main damage dealer, so he starts off by popping the Hermes Sandal and then casting Darkness. He'll then spam attacks when her eyes are red and stop and refresh Darkness when her eyes turn white again. Not having enough experience means we will need to heal up and go into a 3rd round, but at level 17, Cecil takes her down in only 2 rounds of attacks, giving us the sand pearl we need. Now we can drive back to Kaipo and give Rosa the sand pearl to wake her up and have her join the party. At night, Edward sneaks out on his own to play his harp and gets attacked by a Sahagin, as well as hallucinating about his dead girlfriend. The next morning, we'll talk to Mapping Way, who now becomes Living Way the Vagrant. Also, we'll go grab the item lore augment next to this palm tree before driving to Mount Hobbs. The entrance is blocked off by ice, so Rosa asks Rydia to cast fire to melt it. But Rydia is traumatized by fire thanks to a certain someone. But Rosa manages to convince Rydia to melt the ice, so we move forward and meet Yang, who is in the middle of a fight with some goblins. We'll team up and face the dreaded Mom Bomb together. Mom Bomb is split into 3 phases. While her HP pool looks intimidating, we don't have to deal 11,000 damage, we just need to push her into her 2nd phase. For the first phase, Yang and Cecil will be our main attackers. While Rydia can hit Mom Bomb's weakness, she's still way too weak due to gaining so little experience up to this point. After 2 rounds, Yang stops attacking and starts using focus to boost his damage for later. Once Mom Bomb transforms, Yang will defend while the rest of the party just eats the explosion and dies. After the explosion clears, Yang will use Kick to instantly clear all the bombs. Now that we've seen Yang's focus in action, this means the answer to yesterday's quiz is C, Bard Song. There are just no good Bard songs this early in the game, so we don't use any. Yet, at least. So congratulations to everyone who picked the right answer. Here's a cookie. This one's oatmeal raisin. Be sure to subscribe to keep up with the series as well as the daily gaming quizzes in the community tab. Now that Yang's joined the party, we now have a big strong monk to carry all these dead bodies for us as we make our way to Yang's home of Fabul. While the rest of the party's unconscious, Yang's going to take our money and buy some weapons for himself. In total, he gets 2 Fire Claws, 2 Ice Claws, and 1 Thunder Claw. He'll also unequip the rest of the party while digging himself out with all his new stuff. Fabul is about to be under attack, so now the big, strong man and Edward will go to the front lines to protect the crystal. In total, there's 7 fights in the Fabul Gauntlet. In general, Yang will just kick while Cecil takes out any stragglers. The group gets pushed further and further into the castle with each fight until finally, we get pushed into the crystal room where we encounter the guy leading the charge, Kane. That traitor. After losing to Kane, we get rescued by Rydia, who manages to revive everyone with a simple cure spell. We'll also talk to Living Way, who has now become Recording Way, the journalist. The next day, we'll go see the king again, and he'll get us a ship to sail to Baron, as well as giving Cecil a fancy new sword that we won't be using. As we head towards the ship, we'll meet Yang's wife, who will give us a counter augment. On the boat ride to Baron, we encounter some less than favorable weather conditions, but I'm sure it's fine. 2 microseconds later. Everything is not fine, everything is not fine, we're all gonna die! Ah!